Well, I need to adjust my script here. Okay. Okay, I think we're recording, Mitch. Are you good to go?
Good, let's go.
All right, let's do this. All right, today we are going to ask the question, if I was seriously injured in an accident and I need a lawyer, what questions should I ask? Welcome to another informative segment of Live with Mitch from the law firm of Proner and Proner. I'm your host, Mel Magoya. And we sit down with the expert himself, Mr. Mitch Proner, a personal injury attorney with over 30 years of experience, here to answer your questions or any interesting topics that you might find useful in the personal injury world. How you doing, Mitch?
Pretty good. Always happy to present and hopefully give some interesting information for people that may be considering their needs after an incident involving injuries and dealing with lawyers.
Definitely. Well, just before we start, guys, just remember, folks, that if you need to contact us, all consultations are free and confidential. Call us at any time at 1-800-321-1234. So let's just jump right into it. So yeah, the general theme, the general question, Mitch, is if I was seriously injured in an accident and I need a lawyer, what questions should I ask? What comes to your mind first, Mitch?
Well, typically people, when they're involved in a incident where they've sustained injury, where they believe it's the fault of somebody else, they're told at some point by their friends, their loved ones, you got to get a lawyer. Or maybe they know it on their own, or maybe they've seen an ad, you may be entitled to money if you suffered injuries. And the first thing people are often thinking are, what's my case worth? And what the case is worth is typically based on two factors. First of all, liability. That's who's at fault. Because to receive compensation for injuries, you need to show that somebody else was at fault. You can't injure yourself through your own fault and bring a claim. Second factor is the extent of the injuries. And a large component of the extent of the injuries are the permanency. Whether somebody suffers permanently from an injury or it's just a transient condition or they're just in pain for a day or a week or 3 weeks or 2 months, greatly affects how much money an insurance carrier or a corporate defender is going to pay for those damages they caused. Whether it's settled with an insurance adjuster or by an award from a jury, the permanency is a permanent concern. So, oftentimes in that initial consultation, the injured party doesn't know the permanency. Because if you go to a doctor with a head injury or a broken bone or a neck or back injury, and you say to the doctor, what's going to be the permanency of this? Well, naturally, if you lose a limb, like an amputation, the doctor's going to say it's not going to grow back. But aside from that, everybody heals differently. And you might sustain the same injury to your shoulder and have a full range of motion in 6 months. Somebody else might end up with compromised motion in 6 months. But depending on the damage done, you may have arthritis, you may not. Arthritis typically comes from damage to the articular surface of the joint. That's the covering of the cartilage, like the white part on a chicken bone. If that's disrupted, you're more likely to have arthritis. But arthritis doesn't show up typically for 5 to 10 years. But a doctor can testify with a reasonable degree of medical certainty arthritis is likely to occur as a result of the injury sustained.
Okay.
And they can typically tell that immediately. But how much your ability to engage in day-to-day activities or your work, that they might not know for 3 to 6 months. So how much my case is worth is probably not not the question you want to ask.
Yeah.
What you do want to ask the attorney is what their experience is. Most cases settle, but some cases go to trial. If the case goes to trial, who's going to try the case?
Okay.
How many attorneys do they have working on it? Who's going to be assigned to their case? How many paralegals they have working? Who's going to be assigned to their case? These questions may or may not affect their decision. How does client contact work? How often should they expect to hear from the office? How does the claims process work?
Mhm.
Every case is different. And as a matter of fact, even every state is different. In New York, cases are often put in suit right away. Whereas in Connecticut, if you put a case in suit right away, the adjusters say, well, why'd you put this case in suit? We didn't even have a chance to try and settle it. They're shocked that you file suit right away. Every state is different. And how much experience the attorney has in that specific type of case might be important.
Okay.
And lastly, you might have particular concerns based upon your individual circumstances. For example, maybe you can't show you lost earnings because
Okay.
you own your own business and you've been declaring a loss, even though it pays for your personal expenses and your lifestyle. How's the attorney going to handle that? Any sort of details about what's going to affect your case and your concerns, that can be presented. Lastly, your medical treatment should be discussed, and the attorney should be able to participate in that conversation with some sort of direction and guidance if needed. Not every doctor takes the type of insurance that may cover your type of injury. For example, you might have wonderful health insurance, but your health insurance might be a self-funded ERISA plan, which would mean at the end of the case, any bills your health insurance paid would have to be paid back out of your share.
Oh.
Whereas no-fault insurance, which covers your motor vehicle, doesn't have to get paid back. Not every doctor takes no-fault insurance. The lawyer might be able to present to you solutions that economically make sense for you, but can still get you the best care that you deserve and need.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, if you don't mind, that's really, those 5 things are definitely even stuff that I wasn't even aware of. So thank you for that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to follow up with some other questions. So does it, in terms of this, does it matter who was at fault in an accident?
Yes, but fault can be relative. So, for example, in New York, there's a concept called joint and several liability, which means there might be 2 or more parties that are responsible for an incident. But even though one party's contribution to the incident is minimal and the second party's contribution to the incident is great, both parties might be equally responsible to pay your damages.
Mhm.
So oftentimes the attorney can assist in finding additional culpable parties that might be able to participate in paying the damages you're entitled to. So fault does matter. And
Okay.
the best thing to do is to have an open conversation with your attorney about how the incident occurred.
Okay.
But you need to have that conversation until your attorney tells you all the evidence that he's acquired on his own. For example, if there were local videos taken from stores near where the incident took place, or a bank or a gas station, they often have security cameras. And if they do exist, you can see those before you start to talk about how it happened.
Okay.
and whatever, it's the police report, witness statements, photos, anything that might be there. The attorney should do his job, prepare you for what the physical facts show, and then you could talk about what you recall about how it happened.
Okay. Okay. And then, so here's another follow up. So how soon should someone contact a lawyer after an accident? I know you've mentioned many times in the past, first make sure you're okay physically, but does that change from time to time, or what is your
First,
opinion then?
first concern is getting your medical care.
Okay.
Don't worry about bills. Take that ambulance ride. Get yourself checked out.
Okay.
Give all your complaints. Get the right care immediately, because trauma can be a dangerous and elusive concept that you might not know how badly you're injured.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've had to speak to family members for loved ones that didn't know how badly they were initially injured. After you get yourself that immediate care, contact an attorney immediately. The insurance carriers, they have investigators and lawyers on call 24/7. And when they know of a claim, they immediately get to work in investigating that claim. And that's not to figure out how much they can pay you. That's to figure out how to minimize their exposure. And minimizing their exposure means paying out as little as possible on claims. So since they can work on getting evidence to minimize their exposure, you should have a level playing field, and you should have attorneys and investigators working for you immediately. And my office, we don't collect unless we're successful. So you're not going to have to pay any money to get us working right away. If we take your case, we will get to work immediately. And that's going to keep the insurance carriers honest, because they're going to try and minimize their claims. We're going to try to maximize your economic recovery. We can't make you better physically. That's up to your doctors. But to the extent that you're entitled to money for the injuries you sustained, we can get to work immediately to make sure you get everything you're entitled to.
Nice, very nice. Now, speaking on that, in addition to that, before we close up this segment, like, so what sort of like documentation or evidence should someone kind of collect after an accident? I know there's a lot of things going on, but is there a process, or what can an individual do?
So if their injuries prevent them from taking photos or videos, they might have somebody with them that can take that on their behalf.
Okay.
And if they have somebody with them that could take it on their behalf, they can ask that individual to take photos and videos. Any photos and videos from the scene can be helpful.
Okay.
The identity of the parties, the location. Oftentimes people will say they tripped on a crack, and they'll take one photo of the crack, and you can't tell whether that crack is in Manhattan or the Bronx or Kansas or Afghanistan. You can't tell, but it's
Yeah.
a close-up of a crack in asphalt. But if you can take that same crack and you show from different angles in the background and where you are, you can determine which property it's in front of. And they might have responsibility for maintaining that sidewalk.
Okay.
So oftentimes people say they don't know the vehicle that hit him. The police got all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that slows down the claim, because the police report might not be ready for a few weeks, and the other side's already done the investigation.
Oh.
But if they just take a photo of the plate of the car, whatever damage there is, we can get to work right away.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
location, parties involved, that we have gone and found locations where our clients didn't know. And we've had to jump through all sorts of hoops to get that, and I could tell you stories for a long time of how we found things out. But the assistance is always grateful and can get them the individual better outcome because that proof is helpful. After that, you could be in tremendous pain in your neck, your knee,
Yeah.
your shoulder, and you say, I don't want to go to a doctor. You have no proof of a claim. You're not injured according to the law. Until you get help from a doctor, there's no medical proof. So you get that care. Give them all your complaints. If you think your knee's okay, but it's mainly your back, if your knee hurts, tell them that too. Because it could be your back feels better in 2 days and your knee's killing you.
Yeah.
And the insurance carrier will say, he didn't complain about the knee in the hospital. He didn't complain about the knee in the emergency room. And they'll try and say it's from something else. So get the earliest possible time, get that medical care and give them all your complaints. Then you got to follow up with the care, because if you stop treating, the law actually recognizes, for example, according to the no fault statute, which covers motor vehicle accidents in New York, excluding motorcycles, you need to have a serious injury under the statute.
Oh.
And you could have had surgery and your case can be thrown out with a gap in treatment. There's actually case law that says a gap in treatment can be used against you because you might not be able to show the permanency that's requisite to prove that serious injury under the category you're trying to qualify for.
Okay.
So as long as you're getting medical care, there's no gap in treatment. If you stop treating, that could affect your case. Now, your doctor, typically, they don't tell you after 6 months, all right, you don't have to come back anymore.
Yeah.
What they'll say, if they're on the stand, is I instructed them to come back as needed. Well, if you're still having problems, then it's needed to tell the doctor that I'm still having these problems, and the doctor can prescribe medication, prescribe therapy, recommend a surgery on occasion. But to the extent you're still having problems, you should get the continued care. And don't miss your appointments, because they can say, if he was so badly hurt, why was he missing all those appointments? And those are items that somebody should get.
That's really, really great information, Mitch. So, well, there you have it, folks. You heard it from the expert himself, Mr. Mitch Proner. That'll do it for now. And thank you for taking the time to tune in, whether it's on our podcast or video broadcast. We really do appreciate you taking the time. And as always, remember, you can call us 24/7 at 1-800-321-1234, where consultations are free and confidential. Also, if you have not done it yet, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Please like, share, and please subscribe so you get the latest updates. Now, before we go, Mitch, do you have anything else you want to add?
I hope everybody's well. If you suffered an injury, get the medical care you need, and then contact an attorney immediately.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you again for yet another informative session with you. And thank you all for checking us out. I know I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.